Hello and welcome to episode 120 of Gutter to Gutter podcast. In this episode, I'm joined by Cam Scorey. Cam owns and operates Hussln Auto Detailing out of Tatura in regional Victoria. After chatting back and forth with Cam for a long time on social media, it was great to be able to pay him a visit and get this episode recorded face to face on what is probably the busiest intersection in Tatura, which I'm sure you'll hear in this episode. In this episode, we got to hear about how Cam started out in detailing and how he went from working for a dealership to taking the leap and opening his own business and later on moving into a workshop of his own. We got to hear about Cam moving from Shepparton to Papua New Guinea when he was only a week old and what it was like early on in life trying to make friends when you're surrounded by armed security guards. After that, Cam was moved into regional New South Wales in Blayney without any more armed security guards, where he would live until his teen years before moving back home to regional Victoria. We also got to hear about how Cam moved to Perth for a girl he met online, which ultimately led him to start detailing and marry his wife before moving back to regional Victoria again. Cam has a really cool story and I'm glad I got the opportunity to sit and talk with him for this episode. That's just a brief summary of this episode without giving too much away. So with all of that said, I hope you enjoy episode 120 with Cam Scorey of Hussln Auto Detailing on Gutter to Gutter podcast. Hello everyone, welcome to another episode of Gutter to Gutter podcast. I'm Static and in this episode we are joined by Cam Scorey from Hussln Auto Detailing. Cam, how are you, mate?
I'm good. Great to be here.
Thank you so much for having me in this pretty cool workshop.
Glad to have you and let's have some fun.
Yeah. So I guess, mate, we'll start off with the normal sort of intro. Give us a bit of a rundown of who you are and what you do.
I'm Cam Scorey from Hussln Auto Detailing. We started the business in 2010 back in Perth. I was detailing for a dealership. I know detailers don't like to say that, but it is what it is. And needed some spare cash, so I started doing detailing on the weekend as well. And stayed part-time for a while, went back to my original background's management with big supermarkets, got sick of all their shit, as everyone kind of does, and went full ball with this and haven't looked back since.
Yeah, nice. So I guess starting in Perth, and now we're in sort of, I guess you'd call this sort of country Victoria?
Yeah, nice regional Victoria.
Yeah, nice regional area. So how did that come about?
I'm originally from the area, so the workshop's 10 minutes from Shepparton, and I was born in Shepparton, moved around a lot as a kid with Dad's work and overseas and everything, and was stuck in a rut in Perth, and the wife suggested, why don't we move back to regional Victoria? She's a country girl as well, and that was in 2015. Haven't looked back. Yeah,
nice. So what's that, 2015? That's 8 years ago now.
Yep.
And loving it here.
Loving it.
Yep. So you started out detailing for a dealership.
Yep.
I guess give us a bit of a rundown. Like, what was the reasoning behind getting into detailing, and was that like a thing that you wanted to do from school, or did you kind of fall into it?
I always remember as a kid helping Dad on a Saturday morning before we went to football, or on a Sunday helping him keep his cars clean, and I always enjoyed it. And as soon as I got my first cars, it was at the servo, car wash, cleaning it every week, and find out I'm doing it the wrong way and actually doing damage to my car. But and then I was doing management with supermarkets and met a girl through the old forum days, showing my age there, the old car ute forums, and she was in Perth, and I went, well, I need a sea change. Why not just pack up your things and move across the country for someone you've just met?
Yep.
And didn't have a job when I got to Perth, and I was like, well, I'll find something. And one of her friends rang and said, I'm at a Mazda dealership. We need someone. Cam looks after, keeps his stuff clean, and is he interested? And jumped in, and within probably the first week, I went, I actually really enjoy this. And then built on it from there and learnt more and more. And
yeah. Yeah, right. There's something to be said. I know, like, people kind of might hear that I met someone online sort of thing and go, oh, whatever. But there's something to be said about meeting people online. Like, you get the truer version of themselves, and you get that without any judgment from yourself. You know what I mean? Like, a lot of the times we'll sort of meet someone, if we meet them face to face, you're seeing them before you speak to them, and there's already a judgment there before you speak to someone. But online, you're kind of getting, for the most part, you're getting like the truer version of someone, and you're making a better judgment of them before you see them, essentially.
You get to know their character before their looks. So, I mean, especially the forum days, the profile pic was usually either their car or, you might see a photo of them, but that's all you've got. You're not walking in like a normal blind date where you're like, the first thing you see is their looks, and then you got to work out, oh, she's hot, but got the personality of a wooden door. So at least, the old forum days and internet, you could get to know. And we'd talked a fair bit. Like, then you add each other on Facebook, then you start texting and calling. So we'd talked a fair bit. It's just we'd only met in person and been together for probably 6 days when I moved across the country.
Right. That's pretty cool.
We'd been together for 3 months, and
Yeah, right. So still together today?
Still together today, happily married with a family. So
you moved over to WA for that, and then to pursue your career, I guess. So give us the sort of rundown, like how did that go from dealership to then like a side thing and then starting Hussln?
Within probably the first month of being at the dealership, my in-laws were like, oh, I need my car done. I'm like, I'll bring home some stuff from work and do some cashies, and then they tell people. And then after 6 months at the dealership, Woolworths came knocking and said, hey, would you like to come back for a management position? I said, well, this is my price. And strangely, they agreed to it, which, so I went straight back into 70, 80-hour weeks management, and then detailing on my days off. Did that for another couple of years, and then got sick of them, so went out and then started doing some subcontractor work for dealers. So I would invoice them for doing their trade-ins or their paint protection jobs. They would pass it on, and then it got to the point where I was like, no, I'm just going to do my own thing. And then we were sick of Perth, and it's beautiful, but it's just expensive, and we were both stuck in a rut. We had an 18-month-old. We had an 18-month-old, and just as life happens, you get in those bits of ruts, and we knew we were never going to get ahead in Perth and get a house, and so we're like, you know what, let's move back to our country roots. And there were no detailers in the Goulburn Valley. When we came back, it's if you wanted a cut and polish, you went to a panel shop, and it was getting to the points where insurance jobs got more important. So it wasn't, panel shops weren't interested. So that was another defining point to move back, was there's no one in the area. I can have the foothold in the area and build from there. And
nice. So when was that? That was 8 years ago?
2015 we moved back, July 2015. So
so you came back and opened this up straight away?
No, I was mobile for probably 12 months.
Yep.
And then linked up with a friend who's a mechanic and subleased off him a section of his workshop, and then I needed more room, he needed more room, the dust was annoying, so we started looking, and then this building popped up just over 3 years ago, and busiest intersection in town, so I was stupid to knock it back.
Absolutely. It's a cool little spot, hey, like you've got your showroom out the front, your offices, and then like this workshop, which is fairly spacious, you know what I mean? Like you got plenty of room to do what you need.
And it's a fairly old building. I think it was originally built in the 60s.
Right.
So it's been a tractor dealership for a while.
Yeah.
And then servo on and off for 20 odd years, and then it sat vacant for 10 years because the fuel tanks were leaking.
Yep.
so it sat vacant for 10 or so years, and then a couple of small engine mechanics moved into here, and then they moved out, and I've been here since.
Nice. So yeah, busiest intersection in the area. You were saying yesterday, I came in and had a quick visit yesterday. You were saying that someone took out the front corner of the shop.
Yep. Someone got fuel and drove off in their truck and got too close to the building, didn't realise, and took out probably 5 metres of the building out the front. So the front showroom's now got a nice 45-degree wall on one side.
Yep.
Adds a bit of character to the building.
Absolutely, and it gives you a nice open spot to sort of put your signage and show off to everyone where
it does. It really makes that signage pop.
Yeah, for sure. Take us right back, mate. Where was it you grew up? So you grew up around this area?
So I was born in Shepparton. When I was a week old, straight on a plane to Papua New Guinea.
Right.
My dad ran the Maggie 2-minute noodles factory there.
Wow, okay.
And he was on a contract. So we were there. So for the first 5 years of my life, I lived in New Guinea in a compound. It opened my eyes a lot. As I grow older and I can remember back things, it explains how I think about like society and stuff, because we lived in a nice compound because the company owned, but Dad was deemed a person of interest. So anywhere we went outside the compound, which had 3-foot reinforced concrete walls with barbed wire, 2 security guards at the gate. Anytime Dad went out, he had an armed security guard with him. Anytime Mum, me and my brother went out, even if it was just shopping, we had a security guard with us. So if I wanted to play at the park across the road with the other kids, me and my brother were pretty much the only white kids in town. And, security guard would have to follow us to the park. So it's a bit hard to play hide and seek with the local kids when you've got a guy with a shotgun following you around. But it does open your eyes up to the world. And
well, it's a double-edged sword, right? You're like, oh, he's over there, but there's a guy there with a shotgun. I don't want to go there.
Exactly. So, and then in 1994, the contract was up, so Dad moved back to Australia and he got a position at Friskies Pet Food, owned by Nestle as well, at Blayney.
Yep.
So we lived in Orange because Blayney's cold and a hellhole. Anyone who's been there or lived there will vouch for that.
Yep. Orange is not much better.
At least there's things to do
There's
in Orange.
things to do, yeah, you're right.
So we lived in Orange for 12 years.
Yep. Till
I was 16. So, and then Dad had been with the company 27 years, so he got a redundancy. All my grandparents and everyone are all in the area down here. So Mum and Dad decided they wanted to move back here to be closer to their parents as they got older. I was 16 and a half. We moved back here and I jumped straight into full-time night shift at Woolies. I had been an apprentice butcher through the first 6 months of year 11. And then when we were moving down here, Woolworths local store wasn't big enough to have an apprentice butcher, so I had to give that away. Otherwise that would have been my first calling. And then started doing night shift and did that till I was 18. Then got an apprenticeship as a mechanic. Did that till I was 20 and a half. It wasn't a very good place to work. I'm still friends with a lot of people from there, but it just wasn't. And it was a case of, do I stick out 18 months and get my ticket and hate the industry, never want to touch a car again, or do I just cut my losses and leave? And cut my losses and left. And then as I left there, that's when I started talking to my wife. So it all worked. And then, 2010, moved to Perth. Yeah,
right. So what was life like over in Perth compared to sort of here?
Oh, the weather's amazing.
Yeah.
There's no winter, effectively. It doesn't rain a lot. It's some of the best scenery in the country. Just expensive. They think everyone's on mining money and they're not. So, and I loved it there. I had no plans on ever coming back. It's just, we had a discussion at home one day and the wife wasn't happy and she wanted to get out of the country, and she's travelled a lot when she was younger, like with jobs. Made the suggestion. We're like, well, look at work. Like it's smart. I didn't want to take her away from her family because all of her family's in Perth. So she made the call and we moved back here.
Yeah, nice. It's one thing, I've been over to Perth a few times, and every single time, like myself and my wife go over, or have been over there quite a bit, but every single time we get there, we just go straight to the closest beach. So we can watch the sunset over the ocean, because obviously on the east side, we don't get that. We watch it come up over the ocean if we could be asked getting up that early.
Yeah, true.
But yeah, I don't know, there's something really, really cool about just watching the sunset over the ocean, you know, drinking a hand or whatever, and the person you love next to you. It's really cool. So did you sort of spend much time, or did you do that sort of thing at all, or was that a thing for you?
Yeah, we did a lot of that and travelling around, and we were both in the ute scene, so we went to a lot of B&S balls, so we'd go out into the country, like out to Quairading and Kalgoorlie and all those sorts of places, and go to B&S balls and enjoy it.
She's a busy intersection, huh?
That it is. You don't realise how busy it is here until you're here, especially on a Saturday morning.
Yeah. Yeah, cool, man. Did you get into any sports at all?
I did. I'm a huge AFL fan, although I get picked on for that, especially living in New South Wales for all those years. So I love nearly every sport. So I love AFL, love NRL. I got into that when I was living there, and you know, I picked my team because of the girl I had the hots for. She was really into the Bulldogs. And in the early 2000s, they were actually pretty good, unlike at the moment.
Very true, very true.
So I was like, I'll start following Canterbury Bankstown, and it's been a lean run for a while.
Yeah. So I was a Bulldogs fan as well as a kid. My father was massive into football. I kind of, because of who he was and who my uncle was as well in football in sort of the Western Sydney area, I don't know, I felt like I was expected to play football. So I did for a little while, like when I was very young. I think under 8s might have been the last time I played. Maybe when we moved up to Coffs Harbour for a while, then came back. And after that, I think I played like half a season with the school I was at. And yeah, I just, because I felt that, not so much pressure. I don't think my father ever actually put pressure, but I felt pressure to play. From then, hated it. But Bulldogs was my team when I did enjoy it.
Yeah, I love my NFL, like my gridiron, cricket. Motor racing, I don't know, last 2-3 years I've found it hard. I used to always watch every supercars race. At the moment, I probably watch the Formula One race, Bathurst and Gold Coast. That's about it, really.
It's hard. I've tried to sit there and watch an F1 race, and I can't do it. I think I fell asleep. Like, this doesn't do anything for me. V8s, not so much either. I definitely can't take away from the skill and whatever else behind driving those cars and the team environment and what's involved in making those things happen is amazing. But I just can't get into them, no matter how hard I try.
That's me with IndyCar. Like, I love Formula One. IndyCar, I'd watch when they used to come to the Gold Coast. I'd watch that, and then the Indianapolis 500. Other than that, I'm like, oval racing does nothing for. Like, even Speedway, I'm not a big fan of Speedway.
I like Speedway.
I can go and watch it, but I'm not. I wouldn't say I'm not enjoying myself.
Yeah. But I enjoy Speedway if I'm there watching it, because you got the thrills, the spills, the big cartwheels that the cars do when things go wrong. You got the mud that flicks out through the fence at you. It's pretty cool. I think last time I took my daughter and we were collecting whatever mud hit us. Yep. We were just making this like little mud ball and seeing who could get the biggest mud ball out of what hit us. So that was a cool little game to play with the kids as well. But yeah, I don't know. It's very hard to follow motorsports as a whole at the moment.
Agreed. And I played sport at school, so enjoyed it. And then when we were moving, we'd moved down here, and I took a couple of years off because I was working night shift as a 16-year-old. I couldn't get to training, and my roster was Wednesday to Sunday, so I couldn't go to games. And then when I turned 18 and became an apprentice mechanic, I started playing under like 18s on a permit. And then I got stress fractures in my ankle, and there's no quick fix for them. So I sat out some footy, and then I moved to Perth, and I was focused on setting up a life there. And it wasn't until we moved back here that I started playing AFL again, and now the body just won't let me.
Doesn't like it?
No, and I started pulling out a contest because I was afraid of work. I'm like, this is going to hurt if this does my shoulder, or I can't work, I can't make money. So I was like, I shouldn't be out there if I'm not helping my teammates. I might be winning the ball, but I'm not helping my teammates if I'm pulling out a contest. So now I just stick to the admin side of sport. But
so you're still involved now?
Still involved.
Cool.
VP of my local club. It's across the road from my house.
Right.
I help with coaches. I'm a sponsor. Major sponsor coming up. So I'm still involved in lots of sport. I just don't play it.
I had a similar story, but with BMX when it came to sort of work and all that sort of gear. Like I broke my collarbone real early into my apprenticeship, and that slowed me down a lot. But I think 4 weeks after I did that was the GT World Nationals in Penrith. Like it was, the my home track. So I couldn't not go to it, and I couldn't not take my bike.
Of course.
And I couldn't race, so I didn't. But I'm like, king of dirt, like I'm okay at dirt jumps. I've never really hurt myself doing that. I haven't come off, and then you start trying a few different things, and you're like, this is feeling pretty comfortable. I can feeling pretty good, so I'll just try through a 360, that was my staple trick. I could do them off just about everything. And I just landed wrong, sort of came off, just tumbled. The very first thing you learn on a BMX is how to fall off it. Tumbled straight back up to my feet, so it was almost like a commando roll over my shoulder, but it was a broken collarbone shoulder. And it, only 4 weeks, so it had only just sort of connected itself back together. And I felt a pop as I went over, and as I stood up, there was like a flutter of sorts. And I went, I remember what that is. And someone came over, because I kind of just stood up and went, just stood still for a while. Someone comes over and they're like, "Are you okay?" I'm like, yeah, I'm good. I just broke my collarbone. They're like, "What?" And I think back to that now, like somebody probably should have done something to help, but I got on my bike. I went and picked my bike up with the one hand that worked, because I couldn't really hold any weight with this one. I got on my bike and I rode home, one-handed the whole way, which is probably about 10 Ks at the time. Rode home and just, I guess I just lay on my bed now. So for the next 4 weeks, I was like laying on that, so I'd prop one side up with pillows while I was sleeping and just lay on that, so I'd try and hold it straight. But then I still had to go to work. So I did that on the Sunday. I went to work on the Monday, and I tell you what, I'm up a ladder with a hammer drill.
The boys wouldn't have looked after you. They would have gone, you already heard it. You should have known better.
I told nobody. They knew I'd just come back 4 weeks earlier from my broken collarbone, so I told nobody that I'd just redone it. But sitting on top of that ladder with a hammer drill, just going through absolute hell, I'm sitting there looking at the ground going, if I could just fall off this, then I've got a reason to have more time off work. But I'm like, I can't do that. It's as dodgy as. And I never ended up doing it. But that was hell, absolute hell. And then I broke it again another 4 weeks later. That was my sister's fault. So 3 times in 3 months I broke my collarbone.
And collarbone's not a fun one.
It's not fun at all. The first time it sort of healed back, like if that's my collarbone, it healed back perfect. The second time kind of did those ones, like it overlapped a little bit and came in. And the third one was like that. So if you look at it now, I've still got like a mad bump there. And kind of my collarbone goes like that and like that. And when I got a tattoo here, my mate that was doing it, he's putting a stencil on and he's looking at it, he's standing back looking at it, he's going, something's not right. Like I can't figure out what it is. Like he's had a couple of goes at it. I went, what about if I told you this shoulder sits down an inch and in an inch? He's like, yep, that's it.
Yep.
Said, I broke my collarbone 3 times, told him the whole story. He's like, yeah, that's it. I said, so your stencil's good, trust me.
It's me, not you.
Yeah, it's me. Yeah, so that was fun, good times. But yeah, definitely that sort of having to give something up because of work.
Yep.
I feel your pain for sure. Dream cars, man. Have you had dream cars growing up?
When I was younger, it was an XY Falcon. I've got all the photos, like when Dad was a P plater, he had a Phase 2 that he'd bought that had someone had put a bigger motor in it, so that it had a cow scoop on it. And I think back now, going, who does that to a Phase 2 when they were not that old? And then he got rid of that when he met Mum and bought an XB GT. So I grew up around like old Falcons, and Dad's friends had old Holden, so I grew up around them too. But I just love the look of an XY. Now as I've gotten older, it's 33 Ford. 33 Ford, and that or a at the moment I'm partial to 64 Impalas.
Yeah, very nice, very nice. So why the 33 Ford as opposed to like a 32 or a 34, which are the more common?
ZZ Top.
Okay.
That is why.
Yeah.
I think I was about 11 when I discovered them, and the Eliminator album, and so Give Me All Your Lovin' and Sharp Dressed Man and all that, and just watching Channel V on a weekend. But
who remembers Channel V? Huh?
Yeah, that's showing our age now. Yeah. And every now and then they'd put on like the videos, and you just see this red Ford, and I'm like, and that's just stuck with me.
Yeah, right. Yep. So either that or a 64 Impala, which, I mean, enough said, really.
That's come on. I've always had a soft spot for them, but the last couple of years I've got friends and customers who are in the low riders, so I've been around. I've got this beautiful Lincoln here, and I've been around them, whether it's on hydraulics or bags, but I've been around, and I'm like, oh yeah, but the price for a 64,
yeah. What I've not kept up. What are they sort of looking at the moment?
For something that's tidy, probably had a refurb in the last 20 years, so it's fresh but not. Depending on how much rust is in, anywhere from 50 to 80. And that's before, and like that's standard. You might get one for around 70 to 80 that's got bags in it, but it might have rust in the sills or in the floor. So, and that's for a hardtop. If you wanted a convertible, you're looking close to 100.
Yep. So either one of those dream cars, how attainable are they for you?
They are, if I really want to. I'm focusing on I'm putting a lot of my profits from the business the last 4 or 5 years back into the business to grow it. I want to buy a house. When I was younger, I was never good with money. I was earning good money, but I just pissed it up against the wall. Nothing stupid or anything, but I'd, you just go, oh yeah, I want that, bang, just buy it, not thinking, do I really need it? So now I'm, trying to get a house and then decide whether I have a home workshop or keep this building. Yeah, right. So they're both attainable. It's just really, I'd like to have one before my 40th. So I'm only 34 at the moment. So
yep. So a
plenty of time.
Little bit of time, yeah.
Plus, I've got so many customers with nice cars that I can just borrow them. As case in point, this Lincoln behind us. I'm taking it to a wedding this afternoon because the owner's not available. So that scratches that itch. And as long as I bring it back clean, logbook filled out, they don't care. And I've got 10 other cars I can do that. I'm like, hey, I'm going to a car show on Saturday. I want to promote the business or some of the products. Can I borrow the car? I'll give it a detail and I'll bring it back clean too and all that. And they're like, yep. So that kind of scratches that itch.
Yeah, yeah. So what are some of the cars you've got access to, like quickly like that?
67 fastback Mustang that's pro-charged, and 63 Impala wagon.
Nice.
A 50, I don't know what exactly year in the 50s, but a Buick.
Yep.
This Lincoln, a couple of like old HJ Kingswoods, Monaros, XY Falcons. So I've got
So yeah, you've got that. You got that base there. That's really cool, and the XY, which you kind of
it scratches that itch
really
without
cool.
having to worry about the repayments on it.
Yep. How good's that?
It's so good.
Playing with other people's money. That's the go.
Yes.
Yeah. Hell yeah. That's really cool, man. First car. Talk to us about first cars.
I learnt to drive in an '02 Lancer with a droid body kit,
Nice.
18s.
Yuck.
So this would have been '05, '06. The sex spec was still a thing. I look back, the car was terrible. It was mum's, and she was looking to buy just a little run around, like a little, because my brother's 4 years older, so he was 18, 19. He had his own car, he was out. So it was only really mum, dad, me. So she's like, I just want like a little two-door, hatchbacky thing to run around. And we're driving around the car yards one day, and I see this Lancer, and the dealership had put, these shitty 18s on it, a full droid body kit and all this. And it was it's what, a 1.8 litre 4-cylinder manual. The thing was gutless as fuck. Perfect car to learn in, like manual and everything. But I saw this body kit and I was like, oh, Mum, you got to buy this, you got to buy this, got to buy this. And so she did, and then, learned to drive in that. And then the first car I bought was a EL Falcon GLI. So it had a few Ks on it, but one of my friends had only had it for 6 months, and he'd bought it off his grandparents, who were the only owners. Lowered it, welded the diff, all the things P-platers do. And then, put a stereo in it that was worth more than the car.
Standard of the time, I guess, yeah.
Had that for probably 6 months. Taught my brother how to do burnouts in it because he'd always had front-wheel drive cars. So I taught my brother how to do burnouts in it, and then we sold that, and I got a BA Falcon Ute. And then, that was where my love of Utes went from there, and I had a few after that.
Yeah, right. So I guess talk us through the Utes.
The BA Falcon, 2 different VS Utes. I love VS Commodores. I had a 6-cylinder that I shaved everything on, hard lid, 20s, stereo. Then I moved to Perth, and I found a Series 3S exec V8 Ute that a tradie had, and this was 2010, and it was a 2000 model, so it had the VT, the roller cam engine, and it had only done 105,000 Ks. And I'm like, hell yeah. And it was white as well, so I just went into the dealer and said, I don't give a shit what trading you give me on mine, but I'm taking everything off mine and putting on that. So I had the same, the exact same. Went to work in the morning with a 6-cylinder VS Ute, came home with a 5-litre, and it looked exactly the same. And then a couple of I bought an XH Ute, was going to fix that up, and someone offered me money for it, and I'm like, sat there for 3 months, I haven't touched it yet, bang. And just a few other little shit heaps, as we all do.
So your first car, remind me what that was?
EL Falcon.
EL Falcon. So give us a story behind the purchase of that car.
I wanted a rear-wheel drive so I could do burnouts.
Yep.
And something a bit bigger.
Yep.
The Lancer, borrowing it by that time, Mum was wanting to sell the Lancer to get something bigger again, which didn't make sense that now the kids are out of the house, she wants a big car again. Yeah. And having a little hatchback, can't fit a lot of girls in the car. So why not get a sedan?
Yep.
And can have more fun, rear-wheel drive. And it was $600 for the car. And then I took it to get a roadworthy, and it cost me $3,000 to get a roadworthy because it.
They always end up costing. Yeah, yeah.
And
you think you save the money, but you don't. That's cool. So $600, you would have just saved that up pretty quickly, or you would have had that money already.
Yep.
And then you get hit with that bill.
Yeah, that was bank of dad of, hey dad, like I was on night shift then. I was making $800 a week take home as a 17, 18. Just, and because my roster was Wednesday to Sunday, I couldn't go to any party, so I wasn't really spending money. So I just said, Dad, can you pay the $3,000 to the mechanic and I'll just fix you up over the next month? He's like, yeah, so.
Yeah, that's good. I remember when I started my apprenticeship, it was like 6 or 7 days a week and 10-hour days or 10 or 12-hour days. So there was no time to go spend the money that I was earning. And as a first-year apprentice, I was earning really good money because I was doing that overtime. Yeah. So I come out of that, like the month or two that I did that for, I just had a bulk amount of money, and I could have probably bought myself a car at the time really easily with that money. I ended up buying a PlayStation and a bunch of, I think it was like $2,000 or $3,000 that I had. I went and spent it all at, what was it at the time? It wasn't EB, it was something else. It was like Gamesman or something like that. Yeah, so just spent a lot there in one night. That felt worth it.
I should have kept that Falcon, but I just turned 18, was doing night shift, and this ute popped up. I went and got Mum and Dad, because I just turned 18, the bank wouldn't give me the loan, even with Mum and Dad as guarantor. So they took out the loan in their name, and I had a written agreement with Mum and Dad. This is how much. And then and I'd always wanted to be an apprentice mechanic. So then 6 months later or so, I got offered the job. And I went from $800 a week take home doing night shift to $200 a week take home as a first year apprentice.
Ouch.
And my repayment was $180 a week.
Oh.
So I was working, 7 till 4:30 at the dealership, and then I went back to Woolies and I was working in the bottle shop from 5 till 10.
Yep.
And then if they were short staffed, once I knocked off, if night shift was short staffed, because that was back when they did night shift, you did 9 p.m. till 6 a.m.
Yep.
So, if someone didn't turn up for a shift or something, they'd be like, hey, do you want to stay back for a couple more hours till midnight?
Please,
so I was doing 7 till midnight to kind of be back on the same wage I was making.
Yeah, ouch. So you went from the Falcon, because you wanted to put all the girls in it, to a ute. Had you had enough of girls then, or was too many?
No, I got into B&S balls, and there's more room in the tray of a ute for a swag than there is in the back seat of a EL Falcon.
More room for activities.
Yes.
Huh? Yeah. Yep.
And it's a bit more appealing to a young up-and-comer to say, do you want to come back to my ute? Then do you want to come back to the back seat of my 96 Falcon?
Yeah. We'll leave that one there, I think.
Yes.
Nice. So I guess where did your love of cars come from?
My dad. He always had nice cars growing up. He was never a big modifier of cars. He'd put a set of wheels on them, lower it, exhaust, tint, and that was about all. Like, he wasn't, going and putting stereos in them or, engine work. But he always had nice cars. And he changed them. The joys of him working so hard with his management job is he turned them over every 3 or so years as well too. So I was just always around nice stuff, and Dad was big into going to the old Sydney Motor Show at Darling Harbour, going to that every year. He was into bike racing too, so we'd go to Oran Park and watch the old Australian superbikes, and then he loved Formula One, so we'd road trip from Orange down to Melbourne and go to the Formula One. So I was always around cars, just not modifying them.
Yeah. I absolutely miss the Sydney Motor Show. That used to be so good at the exhibition centre there. If you went there now, I don't know if you've been there for a while, but I think it was around 2012, 2013, 14, somewhere around there. They completely redid the exhibition centre. It's been completely rebuilt now.
Yeah, I haven't been there since the rebuilt.
And you wouldn't even recognise it today. But out the you used to go through the exhibition centre, then they'd have stuff out the front, and they'd have a 4-wheel drive track that they'd set up there. They'd literally come in with all this earth moving machinery and build a track in the middle of Sydney, middle of the city.
And the Sydney Motor Show just did it so well. They were just... Every manufacturer had the concept cars there, whether it be Bugatti or it wasn't just the Aussie brands that were, but the international ones always brought cool stuff. You'd come home with all those posters and, you know, the race car drivers for these teams would be there, so you'd be able to get them signed.
That's right, yeah. You'd be able to pick up your little A4 poster and get it signed by the driver, and didn't really get photos at the time because they were the old little point and shoot and wind cameras, and so if you did that, you didn't get them back for like 6 weeks.
And they were 9 out of 10 of them was shit because someone moved or
someone walked in front of you.
So yeah, Dad was always into cars. Mum always appreciated nice cars. She wasn't like Mum would look and go, "Oh, that's a nice BMW. Oh, that's a nice HSV," but that was it. But yeah, Dad always had nice stuff. And then when we'd come back down for Christmas to Victoria, he'd catch up with all his mates he went to school with, and they still had their Turanas that they bought when they were 17, and just always around cars.
When it comes to detailing, is there like a car that sort of gets you more excited about detailing?
Not really. Something that's, I guess you call it a farm truck, something that's fucked. Like, it's done 280,000 Ks. They've never looked after it. They've smoked in it. Because the before and afters, you think, like, it's such an extreme.
Yeah, the contrast is just so massive, yeah.
You get a nice car in that, they drive once a month. In 10 years, they've only done 20,000 Ks. When you're finished, it almost sometimes looks like, particularly on the inside, you're like, did I do much more than a vacuum? Like, whereas when they're, I wouldn't say lived in, but when they're used, you can go, oh, wow, like the carpet actually is grey, not brown.
Yep. So it's more that before and after for you, like the I guess the sense of achievement.
And it's the reaction I get from people. Like, I can look at the job and be like, I'm happy with that. And then recently this year I had a car come in. She booked it in last year and then had to quickly cancel, and that was fine. And then she rolls in, goes, oh, do you remember me from last year? And I'm terrible with names and faces. I'm like, oh, yeah, of course I do. And then we got talking, and then it jogged my memory. She had to cancel last time because her husband got terminal cancer. And I said, well, no, I completely understand. Don't worry about me. And he'd passed, and she'd spent the last 12 months finalising the estate, cleaning out the house. They'd been together 60 years. The car was the last thing, and it was a big Jeep, and she wanted to detail it, to sell it, to move on to get something smaller. Now it's hers. And she dropped it off, and the before and after was amazing. And she pulls up to pick it up, and I open the inside and shows her, and she just starts crying and just hugs me, because it was the final, the chapter was closed on the grieving process of the husband, and that means a lot more than the journey. And then I've made lifelong friends out of some customers where they've built this car with their partner, something's happened, and that's what they've got to remember them by. But now they're at that age where they can't maintain the car themselves, but they want to be able to still enjoy the good memories of the car, so they do that. And that's more what it's about now. That's what gets me going every time, as opposed to a good before and after. A good before and after kind of pats you on the back to go, I can still do it. But it's being able to put happy memories to a car that might not have, and then those people, she'll make me morning tea one day and just randomly drop it in still, just to say, I can't thank you enough. Here's, I baked some scones last night. Here's some leftovers. So
yeah, that's cool.
Yeah,
that's really cool. And you probably wouldn't get that in I don't know, maybe an inner city town or something like that, somewhere like this, so regional. You definitely get that more, yeah. Yeah,
and the majority of my work's word of mouth. So you do a good job for this person, they're talking to so and so, and you wouldn't get that in a big city. And I know from in Perth, I didn't get that in a city.
Yeah. No, that's really cool. So what's your general day-to-day work? What does that look like?
I call it mum and dad cars. So your everyday Rangers, Hiluxes, Klugers, still Commodores, still get a fair few Commodores through actually, but your general mum and dad cars. When I was starting out, you'd get a lot more of the show cars, burnout cars. And they were great because they get promotion because they stand out so much. But now, majority of, probably 90% of my work's mum and dad cars, and then that other 10% would be show cars or people's weekend toys, bikes, the odd boat, caravan, the odd hot rod, like high-end stuff that's just been built. So, but the majority, your mum and dad's.
Yeah, right. When it comes to boats, is there anything you do differently for, I guess, the surface of a boat than you would a car?
Yeah, gel coat's completely different to work with compared to paint. And then is the boat direct gloss? Is the clear over base? It's just, I don't advertise that I do boats, so anyone listening, don't call me for your boat.
So we're cutting this bit out then?
Leave it in. But unless you're an existing customer that I already do work for you, I don't take on new boats because they're just, especially if they're river boats, like ski boats, like that brown water just stains everything. If it's an older boat and you haven't looked after it, it's starting to show cracks in the hull, and I don't like boats. I'd rather do a tractor.
Fair enough. Forget I asked boats. Yeah.
I'd rather do a caravan. I'd rather do a 60-foot gooseneck caravan than a boat.
Right, so bring your caravans, not your boats. Yeah, yep. Cool. What does the future look like for yourself and Hussln Auto Detailing?
Just continue to get better every day and train myself to get better. The industry's moving towards paint protection film. It's amazing, but speaking with friends in America who do it, it's an absolute head fuck. The outlay in materials and having a dust-free room to be able to do it, yet they all say you're losing money for the first 2 years on PPF, and a lot of them are saying you're losing 50 to 60 grand over those 2 years. For a one-man band, it's not something I really want to get into. It's where the industry's going, but just keep providing, the service I do. Like I answer my phones on weekends. If I'm out at the servo getting fuel and someone stops going, hey, how much for my car? Still just, I pride myself on my old-fashioned like customer service. And just, I'm honest with people. If you bring your car in, it's a Kia Carnival, you've got 6 kids, you've done 100,000 Ks in 2 years, you've never vacuumed it, washed it, it's not going to come up brand new unless you want to spend stupid money. So it's not worth it. And there's plenty of people that they'll bring a car in and like, oh, I want you to polish it. And I'm like, it's not worth my time and what I'd have to charge you. Like, you want me to spend $1,000 polishing a car when the car's only worth $2.5? Like, so and just keep going where I'm going. Just knuckle down and get better at advertising.
That's definitely something I can relate to. Advertising is massive, it's key, and it's something that you've always got to work at. So, but yeah, like that, those old school values, I guess, word of mouth and customer service. There's something that something to be really said for those things.
And networking with local businesses, like the local window tinter. He's been doing it 30 years. He's one of the best around. He flicks me work. I flick him work. The local police station, I know the boys there, so they're down here all the time saying hello. So they're always, they'll be out on a job for something and, they'll pull a car over that's speeding and they're talking to him and they're like, oh, your car's a bit dirty. Yeah, I need to get a detail. I'm like, oh, actually, we know a guy. So while I've had people that have been referred to me and then, oh, here's your ticket. So, networking with a lot of the local businesses.
How good would it be if you could work with them and go, if you give someone a ticket, send them to me for a bit of a discount or something? Like, here's your ticket, show it to Cam and you'll get a discount.
10% off your speeding fine at a demerit point back if you book in.
Yeah, how good's that? That's awesome, mate. We'll get into something I know you've been looking forward to, questions from past guests. I've left a few more than I normally would because I know there was one you were pretty keen to sort of answer, and that's coming from Jazzy Green. What is your favourite dinosaur?
Triceratops.
Triceratops?
That's a different answer than I would have had a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah?
Because we went down, my best friend flew down from Brisbane and we went to see Bliss and Esso the other week.
Right, okay.
And we had a day to kill. So we were just going around Melbourne and we went into the museum and they've got a dinosaur exhibit there at the moment, and there's one of the best preserved Triceratops skeletons in the world.
Yeah,
there.
right.
And I'm like, holy shit. And I was like, and then looking at the neck joints like a ball and socket, like your hip,
Yep.
which is uncommon for a neck joint. And I'm just looking at this going, oh, this thing's cool. So I'm like, otherwise I would have said T-Rex, but...
That's good. It's different. Everybody else has said T-Rex, so... so you're full nerded out on dinosaurs.
Yeah, which is weird
cool.
because I don't. Like, I can look at the skeletons and be like, oh yeah, that's cool. Like, they've got a blue whale skeleton there too.
Yep.
And like, that's cool, but I'm not normally weird, like nerding out at dinosaurs. Like, it was fully weird. I was like, I don't know if it was the light and mood lighting of the place. I'm like...
Just all of a sudden into dinosaurs.
Yeah.
Awesome, mate. Coming from Matthew Craig, what are you spending your last $100 on?
A good steak.
Good steak.
Good steak or ribs.
And that'd probably cost you $100 too.
Yeah.
These days. Yep. Coming from Matt Mingay, what inspires you to push harder after like a big setback or injury or something like that?
To learn and grow. But a big thing that pushes me every day is just to make my parents proud. Like, you work hard, you see what they do, you see them sacrifice to, and my dad was able to self-fund retire at 55, so he sacrificed a lot to see that, and it's about doing the right thing by yourself so you have a good, clear conscience, but also I just show them that they did raise a good kid, and just, setback's a setback. Like, life is hard, it sucks, it's not really fair, but you got punched in the face today. Oh, well, I'll probably get punched in the face tomorrow, but I'll learn to duck and weave a little bit and it won't hurt as much.
That is probably the most wholesome answer I've ever heard to that question.
And to own, like, a fuck up. Like, when I was starting out, learning how to polish and you're not quite experienced and you might burn through an edge. To just say to the customer, hey, I fucked up, I'm sorry. I need your car for an extra couple of days. I'll get your bumper repainted or I'll get your mirror painted. Just learning experience.
Yep. There's a lot to be said for that for sure. Like, people appreciate that more.
Yeah.
Rather than you going, oh, it's going to take a couple more days with no explanation or something like that. Like, if you just say, hey, I'm sorry, this is what happened. I did this. It's my fault. I'll own it. It's not going to cost you any extra. But I do need it for a little bit longer. They're probably going to sit there and go, okay, well, that's a learning experience for you.
Yeah.
One, he's been completely upfront and honest about it, and I'm not going to charge any extra for it. So when it's time to come back again, then
when you normally knock something off the bill, like say
absolutely.
it was an $800 job and you damage something, well, I'm going to pay for the fix, and then you go, well, look, I'll just make the bill $500.
Yeah.
And then when they're talking to someone later on, going, oh, I'm thinking of getting my car detailed at Hussln, what was your experience like? They're not going to go, oh, he fucked my car, and you might have knocked some money off the bill, but he fucked my car. They're going to be like, hey, look, they're either going to go, he did a great job, he was honest, his integrity was there, definitely go to him, or they will say, hey, look, there was a minor altercation while the car was there. He owned it because it was in his control, or it was out of his control, but it was in his building, and he owned it. I was without my car for a couple extra days, but he accepted responsibility. So,
Ben Jenkins doesn't really relate. Let's turn it around and make it relate to you. What advice would you give to someone getting into like the detailing industry today?
Find someone who's where you want to be. So if you want to have a shop with 10 employees and you kind of just want to be the office man, find someone and mentor you. But look further than social media, because social media lies. I know quite a few guys in the industry who are, big social media followings. Their work's either, I hate to say it, not that good, or not everything's what you see on social media is believable. So find someone who's got the runs on the board and talk to other people who've got runs on the board and go, what do you think? Like, a huge mentor for me is Cam at Custom Car Care Wagga. He's one of the reasons when I was doing weekend work, I came back to Summernats and saw a car that he'd done, and I went, holy fuck, I want to step up my level. And he's 3.5 hours down the way, but he's been in business He's been in business 20 years and been doing it, I think, 23, 24 years. And he calls a spade a spade. Like, and he's had multiple employees in the big shop. Some stuff happened, and he's gone back to just a one-man band. So he can say, look, if you want to have staff, this is what you need to do. If you want to stay by yourself, do this. But he just mentors. And, yeah, find someone who's got... And there's a couple of guys... One of my customers, actually... I've been doing his cars for a few years and doing paint protection on them, and he goes, I want to start detailing now, and he lives about an hour and a half, 2 hours away, so he's they're not going to take work off me. And he's like, would you mentor me? Yeah, sweet. He's like, what do you think of this? What should I do here? So whether it's detailing or anything, like if you want to eventually own your own Sparky business or mechanic, find someone who's doing it, who's reputable, and listen to them. Like,
yeah, for sure. I think I learned that real early on. You go back to sort of things that you've messed up but taken ownership. Learned that real early on with a tradesman that I started with, and when I fucked up, like he made sure I knew about it. You know what I mean? But he always gave me that time. Like he'd blast me and then walk away, and he'd give me that time to sort of sit in that and think about what I did, how I can fix it, and how I can not do it again next time. And then he'd come back and he'd go, okay, so what have you come up with? You've got to fix it. What have you come up with? And it'd always give me that time, and then I'd be able to go bang, 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 this is what we're going to do. And he'll go, yes or no.
My big thing, because doing stuff outside of work, like football club management, a big thing I believe is don't come to me with a problem unless you've got a solution. Because otherwise you're just pushing the problem to me for me to deal with. So, okay, this person, say you've got, you're the owner and your manager comes to you and goes, oh, Johnny didn't turn up for work today. Well, have you done something about it? But if he comes up and goes, oh, Johnny, just so you know, Johnny didn't turn up to work today, so we're going to be short-staffed for the first half an hour, but I called Matt on his day off. He's coming in, so we'll be short-staffed for an hour or so. Yeah. So you've come with the problem, but then you've come with the solution to it. Don't just...
That's right. Yep. That's something I also bring into my work today, right? I'll ring my supervisor if something's gone wrong in the morning and go, well, look, this has happened, but I can do this, this, and this. And they're like, yep, sweet, no worries. Because you've given the problem, they've had that little panic, and you've gone, but here's the solution. You don't need to worry about it anymore.
Yeah. Or here's two solutions, pick which one you want. And they go, yep, go with the first one, bang, done. And then you go, and then you'll actually get more respect from people above you and below you because you're dealing with it. So
yeah, rather than just pushing that problem like, this has happened, I don't want to deal with it, your problem now.
It's above my pay grade.
Yeah.
It's one of the most cop-out things you can say.
Yeah.
Oh, he's management, he gets paid to do that, it's above my pay grade. Or that's not my job.
I've heard that way too much, that's not my job.
Yeah, when just personal accountability.
Yep, absolutely. So. Coming from Scott Shembry, what would you pick as entrance music every time you enter a room?
There's two options here. There's the serious. So the non-serious would be Stone Cold's entrance, the glass shatters. But it would have to have good old JR with the, by God, he's here, he's here. Anyone who's a 90s wrestling fan will know.
Yep.
Honest one would probably be something by ZZ Top or Parkway Drive.
That's a fair contrast.
As you know from listening to my music earlier while I was setting up it, my playlist goes from Finnish death metal through to Shania Twain and pretty much everything in between.
Yep, nice. Craig McKenzie, if you could have any car, what would it be?
33 Ford.
33 Ford. Not bad.
Probably on a Roadster shop chassis.
Ooh, now you're talking.
Although the boys don't like really doing hot rod chassis at the moment.
No. They're liking their muscle car stuff, aren't they?
They are.
Yeah.
33 Ford, Roadster shop chassis with a small block Ford, Hemi-headed, black interior, auto, kind of in that, just simple. A lot of attention to detail, but stuff that you don't notice unless you look hard or you're an aficionado of it.
Yep. Yeah, I like it. And coming from Mark Natoli, how old were you when you got off your P's?
21. Being I was Victoria, we couldn't get our P's till we were 18. Actually, it was 3 months past my 21st because when I sat my test, we only had an auto in the family, so I had to sit my test in an auto. So my P-plate license said I could only drive an auto. So I turned 21, I was in Perth, and I was off my Ps. And I waited 3 months after I'd turned 21 and walked in because then I could just convert it to a full license with no restrictions. So I knew how to drive a manual. So then I just rolled in and...
Yeah, right. So was that the way it happens here? Like you've got to bring your own car to do the test in?
Yes, or you can book a driving instructor's car or something.
Yeah, right. Okay.
But it was usually, you bring your own car.
Yeah, right.
And, well, there was one manual in the family, and that was my granddad's Brumby.
Yeah, right.
And that thing was not even close to roadworthy.
I don't even think they came out roadworthy, to be honest.
No.
But, no, that's cool. That's really cool. Your turn, mate. Give us a question for future guests.
If you could have dinner with any 3 people from history, alive or dead, who would it be and why? Because you can't just say, I'd like to have dinner with Mike Tyson. Well, why would it be Mike Tyson? So,
yeah, cool. I like it. We'll wrap up, mate. Is there anyone you'd like to thank or acknowledge?
Cam at Custom Car Care Wagga and also Modesta Australia. He's just, I can't thank him enough, and he hates being thanked because he goes, it's just my job. But I'm like, no, it's not. He goes above and beyond. Obviously, my wife, even though I know she won't listen to this, but in case she does, thank you, darling.
Hats off to the wives. They put up with so much shit from us.
My parents, they've helped a lot in the background with the business. They've never owned businesses, but they were both management, so they could understand people. And they're both retired now, so if I've got to pick up, drop off a car, Dad will come with me to get a car, or if I'm snowed under with work, they'll come sit in the office and do book work for me or answer calls. Everyone who's supported me I'm coming up on 14 years in business. Everyone who's ever shared a page, post, booked in, talked to me, bought some clothing, bought products, just anyone who's helped the journey. I mean, I wouldn't be where I am without, obviously I've got to do the work, but there's the outside factors of people helping that, and some people who just loan me their cars and just say, do whatever you want, promote it. Jazzy Green, she wins Street Machine of the Year, and then she's like, any promo you need for the car, go for it. You don't need my permission, so I can take photos, promote it on my end.
Yeah, that's cool. That's cool. Any words of wisdom for the listeners?
Work hard, stay humble. You got to pay your dues. It's having a business, let alone being the only person. It's not easy. It's never going to be easy. There are good days, but the bad days outweigh the good days. It's just the way business and life is. So work hard, stay humble, stay true to your word. What you say to the customer, you'll do. Do it. If you make a mistake, own it. And I think that's just not even in business or work, just in life. Just celebrate the small wins. Like, enjoy yourself. Like, if you win a trophy, pat yourself on the back. Next day, start from day 0 again. And it keeps you driven, keeps you going. And, you keep playing the long game.
Nice. Awesome, mate. Let everybody know where they can find you.
Facebook, Instagram. I'm more active on Instagram. Hussln Auto Detailing. I'm always up for a chat. I'm always up to drop some truth bombs if you want to go deep on detailing products and gimmicks within the industry. Always up for a chat. And if you see me at a car show, I will be at Summernats if this is out by then.
Yeah, it'll be out by then.
If you see me around, come up and have a chat. I may look standoffish and sound grumpy, but I will say hello.
Thank you so much for having me, mate. It's been awesome.
Thanks for allowing me to talk a bit more about me as opposed to the business. It's been nice.
Oh, no problems, man.
Thank you.
Cheers. Well, that's it for another episode. Don't forget to follow Gutter to Gutter Podcast on Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok. You can find the video version of the podcast on YouTube by searching for Gutter to Gutter TV, and you can find the audio-only version on most, if not all, of the popular podcasting services and apps. While you're over on YouTube, be sure to check out the monthly wrap-ups where I'm joined by Tony Bishop to keep you up to date with everything going on in the Aussie drift scene, as well as exclusive driver interviews. Thank you so much for tuning into this episode, and I look forward to bringing you more shortly.